Join us on Now We Consume. Take in the knowledge, take in the laughs, indulge in the topics with us. The Now We Consume podcast will take you through the parts of your day you normally dread. Why suffer through the existential crisis of life alone when you can do it with us? And now we consume.
This is not meant to be a conspiracy episode or podcast, but we may cover some topics that dance that line like a toddler dances on their mother's last nerve. This podcast is rated I, for immature audiences only.
Death and taxes, the only two things in life that you know are coming without question, as well as maybe a new STD after a questionable night out with someone from a hole-in-the-wall bar. But tonight, we will do our best to clear up the brain fog in the discussion on taxes and tariffs. And while we can't prescribe a cream for those weird bumps, we will hopefully force some knowledge into your brainus. Welcome to the Now We Consume podcast. I'm your host, Pip, who apparently cannot speak at all tonight. Here, as always, with my co-host, Gibbs.
Hello. I don't like the fact that I learned a new word called brainus. I don't like that.
Brainus. Absolutely, buddy.
Oh, no, I'm going to use that at work now. That's a problem.
Yeah, and tonight we are going to be discussing the very fun and hot button topic of taxes and tariffs. Don't turn it off just yet. I know you're thinking, oh my God, how can this be fun and entertaining? Well, we found a way.
Yes.
We included us. So, while we all understand that taxes are a gross necessity of life, we found some information that we thought might spark some joy in your life and maybe not. Possibly anger. We know it did for us. Tariffs, on the other hand, are a much newer topic for a lot of people, and it's been a fun, let's say, inflammatory topic as of late. So we thought we should get it out there for discussion, let it flap around in the breeze like some dog lips in a car, or some other lips if you are having a little bit of fun one day, and just get it out there to waggle around and
I hate
What?
this entire example. This is grotesque.
well, it's like when Nixon did his little
That's because you're a Futurama fan.
I absolutely am. I'm expecting Carly to come in here and start borking at me. But you know, it's caused a lot of people to get very pissed off, and it may or may not be for good reason. So we thought that it was high time we did what we do, and we're going to slowly undress the topic and touch some tips on this, and see if we can massage a little bit of calm and reassurance into your feelings. So Gibbs, go ahead and you can start us off.
Anyway, I'm sorry. But so the reason this came up is obviously there's been a lot of political talk and controversy regarding tariffs. Now, what people need to understand is actually tariffs have been around really as long as this country's been around. And really, this is something that governments have been using for centuries. In fact, really, for thousands of years. It really wasn't that typical for a country necessarily to do any sort of income tax like we see nowadays. It was much more basically tariff-based, or the idea is if you're bringing goods into a country, they are taxed to be brought into the country, whereas the goods built and distributed inside that country weren't really taxed either at all or at a very, 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 very low rate. So historically, at least in America, the primary way of raising federal funds was always through, maybe not always, but very much primarily was tariffs. It was something to where originally it was just a few percent. That's where you get the idea of the tea tax, or the Boston Tea Party, where that was that couple of percent import tax, or essentially tariff on tea, that caused that whole debacle. It's something to where now I think it's kind of funny how, and we did a lot of research here to kind of show what's happened over the centuries. Where originally tariffs,
much research.
Oh yeah, pages and pages, but it'll be interesting, more interesting than you think. it's really gone from a situation where this country used to be, basically the entire federal government was run by a few percentage tariff on various goods, and some up to maybe 20-30%, without anything else other than maybe some excise tax and a little bit of a tax on public lands that were more for the local state and or county. Whereas now it's a very, very different case. So really, how do these things kind of work? It's pretty simple. Tariffs, just like I kind of described, it's a tax on imports into the country. You have excise taxes, which are something that's really actually sort of unique to the U.S., where effectively you're taxed on the luxury of having a good. So any sort of luxury good, you're taxed on the possession or the acquisition of that. Whereas also you have your property taxes, things like poll taxes, faculty taxes. So there were a few things, but you're talking the average American back right around the time of the Revolutionary War until 20, 30 years after that, or into the early 19th century, 1820. You're talking the average American was maybe paying anywhere between 5 to 10%, if that, in taxes. And that's talking for somebody that's importing a lot, that's doing a lot. They really kept the vast majority of what they were making.
And that was on like a rough value, yearly $3,000 to $5,000.
Of equivalent value, basically. It's something to consider is when we're talking about some of these numbers from hundreds of years ago. We've had to average out a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of things that you have to kind of take a little bit of liberty to. So I did a lot of number crunching, and we figured out some stuff. So just be aware that the numbers might not be 100% like on the dot, but they're going to be close enough to get the point across. So really, it wasn't until 1861 in America where they introduced a flat tax of 3% on annual incomes over $800, which back at $800, you're talking upper middle class today, pretty much. But that was 3%. That was to fund and raise revenue, and really for that Civil War that was going on and coming. Then in 1862, again, it was a 3% increase, but that was between $600 to $10,000, and then 5% over $10,000, aka you're very wealthy at that point. So really, you're talking 1860s. Now we're adding to maybe that if you're well off or really well off, you're talking 5 to 10%. Which to me, that's not anything crazy. That's very much in line, and it makes sense in terms of raising revenue to be able to do things like build infrastructure. That's one of the big things that happened, and one of the reasons why they had to do that after the Civil War. Because in the Civil War, you have so many cities in America that were destroyed, so many towns that were completely leveled. You're talking well over 500,000 dead. It was insane what it did to this country. And a lot of people, if you don't really read historical context or look at a lot of things, some people forget. So there were a lot of roads to be rebuilt, a lot of towns and cities to be rebuilt. Our military was in shambles. We lost so many of our great military leaders from both the North and the South. It was not a good time. But with those added taxes, America saw one of its best times economically up until about World War I. World War I, unfortunately, is the point to where they passed the Revenue Act of 1913, which levied a 1% tax on net personal incomes above $3,000 and a surtax on higher incomes. That was really the first time that it was in law, without any sort of repeal date, without any sort of time frame, that they said, hey, we are going to start taxing your reported or earned income. That is where you do see a massive growth in the U.S. government for both good and bad. That's when you start seeing a lot of different government agencies being created. You start seeing a lot of growth, a lot more jobs, and really the government grows almost exponentially at this point. So then you get into, World War II, to where past that, once you get past the Great Depression, now they start adding even more money. They start taking even more. Then you get even to post-World War II, where they start
taking... That's where the milking really starts.
That's where it starts to get bad. You're talking at some point, there were some, millionaires paying, 60, 70% taxes on some cases. Now, granted, there were a lot of write-offs and other stuff within the system. but you had average Americans paying anywhere from 15 to 30% in taxes. It just keeps going up. That's what I'm getting at. The whole thing, what I'm talking about here, is really every single decade, or really every single different historical point in American history. For some reason, the answer has been just give more money to the government.
More taxes.
Yeah, raise more revenue. And unfortunately, by raising more revenue, every single time they spend more. It's never, ever, ever just, hey, let's put some money away. The only president that did not outspend, as far as I remember, and you guys can quote me on this one. I don't know if you know this. What do you think was the only president that started and ended with a balanced budget?
Oh, shit.
Because I can give an honorary mention.
Okay. Who's the honorary?
The honorary mention is Bill Clinton.
Okay.
He didn't start with a balanced budget, but
he ended.
But he did end. I will give him credit.
Okay. Shit. I will go with either Kennedy for the obvious reason.
Okay.
That's kind of shitty.
Okay. I did consider that.
Teddy Roosevelt?
No.
Am I in the right era?
So you're close. Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Ike. Okay.
Ike. Only because he's one of the only presidents that we've ever had that he only stuck strictly to what was constitutionally allowed by the president. He didn't add any new spending. He didn't push for anything other than just military spending and infrastructure. That was it. So kudos to him. He's one of my few presidents that I liked.
Well, okay.
You're cool.
He is the one that pushed the National Highway Act, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah. But we gained so much revenue from that, from trade and whatnot, movement. Like, that was, granted, it took, a lot of years to be able to implement that. But when you look at the net at the end of it, it was crazy. That's really what allowed America to be the America you see in the movies and whatnot. People moving around, traveling, going places. Before then, it was difficult to move around before the national highway system was in.
Well, yeah, it was streets and state routes.
Yeah, they didn't always connect. There wasn't always a way to get around it. There wasn't an easy way of getting from here to there.
Sometimes it was a dirt road.
Literally. And those cars in the 50s were not comfortable in those.
No.
But so what the point I'm getting at is it's been a continuing cycle of increasing on taxes. But the weird thing is with our tariffs, what we started using is leveraging tariffs and saying, hey, we're going to give these other countries economic incentives to trade with us. So we actually stopped many tariffs, or even in the case of we would be giving goods to a country where they would have tariffs on our goods, but we wouldn't have it on theirs. They were not reciprocal tariffs. We would actually be entering trade deficits. This is one of the problems with NAFTA that we had, the North American Federal Trade Administration, and as well as our more recent dealings with China. Free trade agreement, sorry. I don't know why. Anyways, between that, as well as our trade agreements with China, really ever since the 80s and 90s, we had been in a net loss for most of our trading because we haven't utilized tariffs. The vast, vast majority of all of our government revenue has been taxes on people and businesses. The problem is when you keep doing that, you keep spending more and more and more, you end up, 30-something trillion in debt? We're getting near 40 at this point.
Something like that.
So it's insane. To give an idea how much, which is kind of crazy, in 2024, the top 1% paid an average of about 35% of their income in taxes. The middle 20% paid about 26.5%, and the poorest 20% pay about 17%. Now that's in rough figures, but what's crazy to think about this, the middle 20% of people pay almost $18,000 in taxes. Now, compare that to how America was pre-World War II, pre-World War I, pre-Civil War. Those numbers are unheard of. Especially, you're not even considering the average of the states into it. It's granted it says federal, state, and local, but there are some states, obviously, that are wildly different. some states have a state income tax, some don't. Some have, different taxes on their properties, for example. If you're a state like New Hampshire, where they don't have necessarily sales tax, but they have higher property taxes and different things like that. It really depends. So, why is all of this important? Because in 2024, the U.S. government collected $4.9 trillion, which is a lot of money. However, we spent $6.8 trillion. So we have a damn
just a little more.
Just a lot more. We spent more than the GDP of like major countries like Germany. Like our deficit is more than like an entire European country. It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is gross how far in the red we are.
I'm going to put this link in our stream chat right now,
Yes.
but I encourage anybody listening to go to usdebtclock.org and take a look. The current number is 36 trillion 725 billion 556 million 600,000 700,000 800,000. It's growing that fast.
And it's something to where it's growing to a point to where we can barely even pay the interest on that. The interest alone is $1 trillion a year. To give you an idea how much money that is, the interest on our debt is more than our entire military budget.
And that's saying something.
And we're America, motherfuckers. Like
we like to spend on our military.
Yeah.
We really like to spend on our military.
If our choice is to do anything else or spend it to blow shit up, we blow shit up every time. We are the experts at that. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
But we do not help our poor. We do not help our veterans. We do not help people with healthcare. We don't help people our educational system, no. But we can blow you up from 10 miles away and not give a fuck. We are good at that. But the sad part is, even that can't outrun our debt.
Yeah.
So,
did you touch on the tax breakdown? Because I was pulling up the debt clock and grossing myself out at that number while you were talking, so I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. So, if you look at the debt per citizen, now granted, I took these screenshots the other day, so you might see some newer numbers, but you're talking the U.S. national debt, if it was divvied up per citizen, it's $107,000 per citizen. Or, what's even scarier, per taxpayer, $323,000 per taxpayer. That is a very important number. What that means is for every person that's paying into the system, if the debt on the U.S. was collected right now, you would owe $323,000 on the debt that is previous. That is a system that is not sustainable at all, especially when the average revenue gained per person outside of the government spending on people and actually gaining revenue is $15,000. So you're not even in the realm of being sustainable. You aren't even in the ballpark. You aren't even in the same city. You might not even be on the same coastline. You're not even close.
Not even a little bit.
So this is the reason why the whole Trump tariff thing has been a topic of discussion lately. It's very clear that as a government, we grossly overspend. But inversely, we also do not collect our revenue
Enough.
No. And I just want to look up this live for a second to get people aware. We are spending our largest budget items. We're spending $1.6 trillion alone in Medicare and Medicaid, $1.5 trillion in Social Security, just under $1 trillion on defense, over $1 trillion on interest. And that's not including many other items there that are huge. Many government agencies that are completely overblown. And with Doge, thankfully, being able to sort out and kind of show how much debt we have, and not debt, but how much I guess gross
fraud
negligence.
and waste.
Yeah, fraud. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. With Doge being able to sort that out and show it, we're really starting to see how much can be saved. Like they've already roughly been looking at. They've made proposals to save $300 billion, which is awesome. It's not enough to really swing the pendulum, but it is a lot. It's something to really consider going forward. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Because I figured part of this discussion was, well, could we solve it? Could us two idiots here?
We've solved the energy crisis. We've solved the financial retirement crisis. So we figured, can we solve the tax problem?
And we have an interesting discussion here, because technically, yes. But it's not great. There's a bit of a problem. It's always going to be a spending problem, unfortunately. But we did look at it is possible with some changes in our tariff policy and some changes in our tax system that this is doable. This is very much doable. Now, there is another little point I wanted to make here. Very, very small point. The other issue we have in America is we have some of the highest corporate taxes in the world. And as well as some of the highest corporate regulation. It is very difficult nowadays to start a business. It's very difficult to start something from scratch. Between all the regulations and red tape you have to go through and everything else and different things you have to pay out for between federal, state, and local and all these different forms and everything, you basically have to have triple or quadruple the amount of available money you would think to have and have to have a lawyer on staff and have to have all these other things and have to know people. And that's assuming the local town or province or anything or county approves the business that you want to do. You can't just start one anymore. You have to get approvals and everything else and go through. It's insane. With all of that, half the problem we have now is so few people can start a business or even work for a small business. Most of the people I know, especially in my generation, don't have the offer or the ability to work for a small business. Most everyone I know works for a big corporation or the government. And that's the difference where this country used to be built on small businesses. The idea that the local person, whether it be the local leather maker or you know, the wax person or the post office or whatever it was, every job had to have somebody there locally to do it and to start it and to run it. Whereas now, everything's big monopolies. And I don't know many people. Like, I'm one of the few people that I'm very fortunate to work for a small business. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong working with larger businesses, but you would think for a country that was built on small local companies that we would incentivize to do that. And we don't, because our tax system penalizes you. There's no tax advantage, essentially. In fact, it's the opposite, because you can write off your losses in other ways when you're large enough to have legal teams to be able to figure out how to write off these losses. Whereas if you're just a guy running a landscaping company, you don't get shit. The government doesn't give a fuck. They're like, yeah, you owe taxes, you pay now. You bend over now, no lube. Like, it just, you have to pay. Whereas with these big multinational corporations, they could do what they want and they can pay later.
In fact, they'll use the landscaping mulch as lube.
At least your shit later smells nice. You know? You're like, oh, wow, fruity. Maybe not fruity. That's the wrong word. Woody?
We'll say, what kind of compost are you using?
I don't know. I'm short-circuiting today. I don't know. It's been a day. I had to wear my, when I broke my foot, I had to wear the, like the boot, the compression boot. So I've just been in pain all day at work. It's been great.
Gotcha.
The drugs are totally not kicking in.
Oh, that's epic.
Yeah. It's great. But
have you tried putting it up your butt?
My foot? Are you aware of how inflexible I am, motherfucker? Are you kidding me?
I mean the drugs. Have you tried putting the drugs up your butt?
That's usually an exhaust port, not an intake. That's not what I.
Well, it does work both ways.
When in the Navy, I guess. Huh?
Ask our friends in the alphabet community.
I'm not touching that comment with a 10-foot pole. Nope. Nope. No. But when we were looking at it, in ways for America to solve this problem. I think it's actually pretty simple. Number one, there's a lot of other countries that have tariffs, just overall tariffs on most products that are not insignificant. You're talking, there's a lot of countries that have 40, 50%, even in some cases 100% tariffs on any goods from a certain area to bring in. So in America, we get roughly 3.2 to 3.3 trillion of goods come across the border every year, which means we put a 10% tariff, that's 330 billion. Or, to put it more simply, 30% gets you a trillion. That trillion alone can pay off the interest on our loans, or a loan can pay for the military. You could say, yep, we put a 30% tariff on all of our goods. Congratulations, we paid for the military. Good job. That's good. But those tariffs are irrelevant if we don't lower corporate and business taxes. So more people can start businesses. And really, I think actually the tax system should be advantaged for people and be more leveraged towards small businesses. I'll get to that in a minute.
Absolutely.
Now, sure, there might be a decrease in imports, and there are going to be some products that might have to get exemptions just for the economy to kind of situate with it. But I'm
not
talking
lag.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is it would have to be an increase over a few years. You know, you do 2% one year, 2% another year. You do over the case, of course, like 5 years, 2% a year up until that point. That way, companies have a chance to move things over, to switch things around, to really bring goods and services back to America. Because that's one of the biggest things is we've lost almost every single one of our production plants, any sort of industrial infrastructure we no longer have here. So,
Yeah.
And goods aren't really even built here anymore. Things say made in America all the time. 90% of it's bullshit. 90% of it is assembled in America, or really what it is for a lot of things, it's quality control in America. So they can say, oh, it was made in America because it was going from that place to be sold, which I think that's the wrong way. You got to change how that stuff's labeled.
Yep.
I don't think that's right. No. The other way we thought about helping this out was to do a flat tax. Because one of the biggest problems we see are large corporations that were able to write off so much in taxes that they effectively have a near 0% tax rate. Which I don't think that's...
When you've got companies as big as Amazon, Apple, Tesla, Walmart making, multiple billions of dollars in profit and then essentially getting away with a $0 tax bill. No.
No.
And then I get told I owe $3,000 because I didn't pay enough on my taxes. Excuse me, I paid what you said to pay.
I don't think taxes should be something you have to hire a lawyer for. It should be very simple. Business and personal income taxes, just put it both at 10%. Why?
Uh-huh.
Because that would actually make us a shit ton more money. The only problem is that would basically fire 80% of all accountants. So I'm sorry you lose your job, but get a better job. Hate to be an asshole, but
they just start working in investments.
I would agree with that 100%. So it would be one of those things where you would have so many companies that can only, yes, they would have to pay their fair share, which I know, I'm not trying to go down that socialist line, but more, let's be real. If we're all using the same roads, if we all get protected by the same military, have the same rules, same laws, then it should be roughly equal. So 10% flat tax, that solves a huge issue. Because we get roughly, in terms of revenue between all people and all businesses, with our current situation, we get roughly 14.8 trillion in revenue, so that'd be another 1.4 trillion. Even if you had to do 20%, which I know that's tough for a lot of people to swallow, but for a lot of businesses, that would be less than what the current rate is. And for a lot of people, at least it would be cheaper and easier. I would hope to stick around 10, closer. But even if you had to do 20, right, let's just say theoretically for a year, between that and the tariffs, you basically have the majority of our budget covered. That's 4.5 to 5 trillion. And that doesn't even include other ways of raising revenue. So it's one of those things where if you cut the budget a little bit and add on these things, you could theoretically say to the average person, hey, are you willing to pay anywhere from 10 to 30% more for imported goods? But then in 3 to 5 years, a lot of those companies will move jobs over here, will create more jobs, which then increases that revenue, which then increased revenue means we can afford to do more stuff and incentivize more things to come here. And eventually it's the revolving door, because the reality of it is businesses always generate more tax revenue than people, no matter what. You always want to incentivize businesses. So to me, it just seems like such a simple solution that people like to overcomplicate because they'd be losing money. Hate to say it, but to them, they'd be losing it.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons that so many businesses started going overseas. Yes, they generate a lot of tax revenue, but people are the biggest expense of a company. So, especially American people, because we like our big fat paychecks and we have our fancy expensive lifestyles. So, if we can pay Taji Habib $20 a day to manufacture this widget over in some third world country, where we're paying, Jenny from the block $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're going to make that trade every day of the week. So that takes us back to the incentivizing. It balances out. It really does. I lost my train of thought.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay, because we haven't even got to the last point, which is
No.
this is the one that you brought up, which this is what basically balances the budget right here. This is the one thing we're not doing that many other countries in the Western world do, and I don't know why we don't do this. It's a consumption tax. So the idea is if we make those changes and then do a 5% tax, it's basically just a federal sales tax on anything you buy. If we did these changes, that one adds another $1 trillion a year in revenue. So now we've balanced the budget. What's crazy, though, is if we did it correctly and cut enough stuff, you might even be able to get rid of personal income tax over time.
Right, because that's paying interest on the loan and putting profit into the system, which means the loan goes down, which means you're paying less on interest, which means over time, the loan balance goes down if you're not spending more than you're taking in, just like normal people finances.
Exactly. And again,
that's where my train of thought was going a minute ago, and I knew I was getting ahead of myself, so sorry.
But the reason why I want to bring this up, which is very important, is remember when I said earlier that in 2024, the poorest people paid roughly 17% of their income in taxes. What would be very important here is their effective tax rate would be closer to that 12 or 14%. Because again, if you're looking at the 10% income, mind you, the tariffs really wouldn't hit them that hard because they're not consuming a lot of goods. And most of the stuff that tariffs would be on are larger items, things like vehicles, large tech items, stuff like that. But things like food in America, thankfully, most of our food is here. We don't really import a lot. So for average people,
well, you say that.
You know what I mean, though. And that would be a quick changeover for a lot of stuff. Like, sure, for a couple of years it would suck. But the biggest thing I'm trying to push for is the idea of, number one, us maintaining the American value of the dollar so that it doesn't erode away with inflation. And number two, if you can get it to a point to where Americans can have more, I guess you could say, expendable income, people can start to invest. People can start to grow the economy. People can create businesses. They can create jobs. They can invest in the stock market, 401ks, IRAs. That's really the backbone of how the American economic system works, which for the best, for better, for worse, that is one of the most important metrics. When people don't have money to put into it, everything stagnates. Unfortunately, we are very much a pyramid system where at the very top, it's the NASDAQ, Dow, S&P 500. Those few thousand companies that really run the country. If they're not doing well, everything else comes to a halt. And it sucks because you have to fix the underlying issue of Americans not being able to start businesses to compete with them, which is something we can do. But with this system, you basically only pay a 10% income tax, and then anything else is only taxed if you spend money. So you can invest. You can actually put aside some money and invest and do something. You can get somewhere. And for a lot of people, that, let's just say for the poorest 20%, that would save like 7% of their income. Okay, so we're talking the poorest 20%. If they're making $20,000 a year, 10% that's two. So that they could save like $1,700 a year, or like $150, $130 a month. For some of those people, that is their some of their food money, some of their bill money. I'm not saying it's enough to where all of a sudden everyone could buy a lavish house, but it's the start to be able to get somewhere. Because every single administration since Bill Clinton has spent more money than they've brought in. Because I don't care about your party line or political affiliation. Every single one of them has failed when it comes to finances. So at some point, we do have to make this correction and have the discussion. But what I find even more interesting about this system is the fact that the middle class would benefit huge. Because right now, if you're paying roughly 26% of your income in taxes, imagine if, let's just say you're buying a car, paying that 10% income, pay that 5% sales tax, your effective tax rate might be down closer to 15%, even 18%. That's huge. And especially if you're a top 1% person, because typically most people in the top 1%, they own businesses. They hire people. If a business is able to save, let's just say 20, 30, even 50,000 a year, they can do more to reinvest in that business. They can do more to hire people. They can do things. And unfortunately, I know people have the debate about trickle-down economics, which I know. Some people that have degrees in economics try to say that trickle-down doesn't work. Some people say it does. I'm not here to debate, different types of economic philosophies. But what I will say is the fundamental truth of, if businesses don't have money to reinvest, they can't. I can't guarantee they ever will, but the only way for them to be able to reinvest is to have money. So the only way to give them money is to have the American dollar worth more and take out less in taxes. And if you just put in more businesses, you don't have to take out as much money from them. It's very simple. So by this system, you encourage competition, you encourage more businesses, and people pay less in taxes. Therefore, you get to keep more for yourself, you get to choose. But even more important than anything else, this is one simple fundamental reason. You don't have a choice with the IRS right now for most of your taxes. Either you pay it or you go straight to jail.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not be given your free gift bottle of lube.
And you have to guess. That's the beautiful thing about this country. The government will never give you a piece of paper that says, by the way, you owe this much or we pay you this much. No. You are forced with a gun to your head to say, oh, I need to figure this out and file the paperwork, or else I could go to jail. Which is wrong. Whereas under this system, you just take your income, you move the decimal point over, and you say, there's the income taxes. It's so simple. And I'm not saying it because people are stupid, but the fact that we have well over 100,000 IRS agents to be able to extort people is unreal. When it should just be a simple system of, this is how much you owe, this is the paperwork. It should be stupid simple, but it's not, because people make money off of being difficult, which is not fair. Because every other Western country, they make taxes easy. I know in Canada, they just send you some paperwork. They're like, here's your taxes. This is all done. We know how much you made. This is what you owe, or this is what you already paid in. We pay you back. You pay us. We set up a payment plan. Here you go. So that's kind of where I went with it, where basically we can do it between tariffs, a consumption tax, and a much smaller income tax. That's a flat rate. You'd be all set. And mind you, all these numbers are based on the current data we have. How many companies do you think that aren't being reported on this that don't pay taxes would then have to pay because of a 10% flat tax? Who knows? It could raise a lot more revenue than you think. So that's basically my argument. So I guess the question becomes, where do we end up going with the tariffs? Because, not to get too political, but I know Trump's playing a very interesting game of...
Well, here's the thing. It's working because a lot of countries are saying, hey, let's make a deal.
Yeah.
And I know people don't like him, but his book, The Art of the Deal, it's going on my reading list, as much as I hate to say that. The man knows his shit when it comes to business stuff. And yeah, it's a lot of bully tactics.
Oh, well.
But it's working.
The thing is, if we don't bully these other countries, we end up in a trade deficit forever.
Yeah.
Like we have been.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. We were in a $200 to $300 billion trade deficit with Canada every year. Why?
Yeah.
Why are we giving them that
Our
money?
country cannot thrive and exist like that.
No.
We just go further and further down the spiral, and the words deficit, thank you, goes further and further into the red, and we just get further and further away from a solution. Things like what we're talking about are ways that are feasible to get us out of the hole. Now, we're two guys just sitting around talking about it. Are these ideas ever going to be implemented? Probably not, because nobody has the balls to do it. It's going to take something like the Buffett solution, and saying that nobody in office is eligible for re-election until the budget is balanced.
Not only that, but nobody in office should be trading stocks. Or, inversely, they should have to make it public within like a couple hours.
Yeah.
Either way, I don't care.
90 minutes. Yeah.
The 90-minute rule. As soon as you trade, you got 90 minutes. It must be made public, or you have to pay double what you paid for in fines, and you're barred from trading for like a month or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's that simple.
Yeah, I don't think that if you're able to affect policy that would affect stocks, nobody in your circle, like 5 rings out, should be able to trade.
The problem is there's no way to enforce that.
Well,
Because those are the same people that would be enforcing it. So they won't. That's why you have to make the transparent argument, because they'll never enforce that law.
yeah.
I mean, think about it. How many politicians have you heard about that have been drunk driving or like sexually assaulting or like doing all this weird stuff, and yet it's okay? They just never end up in jail. Nothing ever happens, you know. So no, look at what was that governor that was in Michigan that she was basically like not
Whitmer?
governor, sorry, no, it was like a mayor, that she was like bullying people, hiding their money, extorting the money. I forget her name.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nothing was done about it for years. Documentaries are made about her a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And nothing's ever done. Because unfortunately, I will call this out in the podcast, and I know I'm going to get flack for it. I don't care. Most police are wussies. They don't actually enforce the law.
Do it.
They don't enforce the law. They will see somebody break
Police?
the law right in front of them, and they will not do it, even if it's a senator or a representative or someone in the government. Those laws apply equally to them. If you do not arrest them for breaking the law, you are complicit with it. The only laws that matter are the ones that are enforced. So thank you for being part of the
Police
system.
are not there to protect the citizens. They're there to help with the insurance paperwork.
Yeah.
I will stand my ground on that.
Police are just HR for the government.
Yeah.
That's all they are. Like HR for any
No,
company.
don't get me wrong. I do support our police.
Oh,
I
of
think they
course.
have a strenuous job. They do great work for us, but they're constrained from above from doing the job they're supposed to do.
It's not the fault of the 99% of the people that are actually like doing the job. It's the people up top that are there because of political reasons. That's always the problem.
Yeah.
It's never the ones that
Politics
you actually...
gets in the way of life.
Yeah, unfortunately. But it's the political ones that want to be up, higher up in the rungs, that wants to make the decisions. It's not the ones that actually want to help people.
Yeah.
Which, as we've learned many a time. It's unfortunate, but it's a reality.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that would be, I guess in discussing this, that would be kind of the solution. Where if you combine these things and cut some spending and have more businesses move back, congratulations. You could have a prosperous America like we had in the 50s through the 80s. You could do it.
I did suggest a few other ways that we could prosper as a country too.
Oh, legalize drugs?
Well, if the U.S. started selling drugs, maybe got in on some of that organ harvesting money and potentially start mining asteroids, we could really get some profit going.
Well, mining asteroids, 100%, hell yeah. Also, why the fact that marijuana is still considered like a class 1 or schedule 1 drug is insane. That should be federally
That's
legalized.
ridiculous.
And honestly, if that had a 10% tax on it, we'd make $1 trillion in a year. But that would be the easiest way to make money.
Yes.
So, all that.
It is the original cash crop.
Yeah. And honestly, let me hear your opinion on this one. I think I already know it, but I'm curious. Do you legalize prostitution as well and just have it regulated?
I think yes, because if it's regulated, it's controlled, it's safer, and there's less incidences of disease and violence. So, yeah, I think so.
I would agree, as someone that's not even a fan of the concept of it, but I would agree that like it's your body, your choice. You could do that.
Yeah.
Just who the hell's gonna be running the coochie police? Who's the one that's gonna be running the?
Well, here's the thing: we've already legalized things like OnlyFans, so that's just the next step.
Yeah.
So
Actually, you know,
why not?
Can I have a quick aside because this touches a very important topic? Did you know
Sure.
there's a company that's making?
Touch my tip.
You've ruined it. But you know, there's a company that they've made AI women on OnlyFans, and
Yes.
they're making money hand over fist.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. AI is
the apocalypse
AI
is
is
already
coming,
happening.
buddy. Yeah.
And you know what's weird? Why is it? Now this is gonna be a controversial statement. So it's gonna be a bunch of guys programming women to then pleasure other men. So just like in the trans community, men are gonna be better at women than women being at women. It's the way it's going. All these women are gonna be so upset because they're no longer gonna be on OnlyFans because guys programmed AI to do exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
It's congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah. That's terrible.
Yeah, you know, just saying.
Oh my God. On a side note, did you guys know that the dollar is worth about 4% of what it was in 1913?
Yeah, it's worth
Yeah,
1/25.
that fucking hurts.
It's worth 1/25, which is insane.
Ugh.
Well, you could blame Nixon, by the way, for getting us off the gold standard.
When we got off the gold standard, that was the nosedive off. No, that was the Greg Louganis dive off the diving board that sent us into this disaster. And if you don't know who that is, look it up and watch that video.
So one of the things, I know we talked about this as well during our previous American Financial podcast episode. But we got off the gold standard so the government could just print money and spend what we couldn't spend.
Mm-hmm.
If Trump was smart, he needs to find a way for us to get to some sort of standard that keeps the government from
put us
printing
back on
money.
the gold standard.
Because unfortunately, if I remember here, and I go back to the debt clock, million, billion, trillion, wait a minute, 1,000, million, billion, yeah. So we have currently the M2 money supply in the U.S. in physical dollars is 21 trillion. Which is insane because back in the 70s we had like $1 trillion. So theoretically, we are lucky that the dollar is only 1/25th what it was in like 1913, not like 1/70th.
Yeah, have that Zimbabwe money.
Dude, we're basically a fiat currency. We're going that way. So
Well, we are a fiat currency.
well, I guess I mean like in the realm of like Venezuela.
Yeah,
Because like God forbid if something happens, we are screwed.
we're going to start seeing a whole lot more zeros on our bills.
Yeah. Yeah,
That is not a good thing.
God.
That will not spark joy in our lives.
Well, then all your investments will be worthless.
Yeah,
That's-
and at that point, gold, silver, and brass will be your best investments,
Oh yeah.
and lead,
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
and food and land.
I'm good. I got a greenhouse.
Yeah. Which, in a previous episode, we talked about the importance of being self-sufficient and learning skills you don't have and obtaining information on said skills. Still going to push that. Definitely important.
talking about all of this only reinforces the point of like, get your shit together. Make sure you can handle shit.
Yeah.
Make sure you can take care of shit. Like,
Yeah.
That's all I will say without breaking any terms or conditions of Twitch or YouTube or anywhere else. But like,
Yep.
do what you can to protect yourself and your family and have plans.
Yeah.
It is nuts what could happen. If you want to look at what can happen, just research basically the monetary history of Venezuela and look at what happened during the height of the crisis.
Yeah.
It's insane.
They, I'll give you a little spoiler. They used to have a really nice zoo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that became a buffet.
Yeah. The old Venezuela meat market. Why does my tiger taste like zebra? I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the
Now, I know I did this during the pre-show, but since we're actually recording now, I'll take a moment to introduce the newest member of the Now We Consume family. This here
pupper
is Lilith. No, my phone does not need to know this. Lilith is a Staffordshire. I can never pronounce it right. Staffy.
Yes.
You gonna say hi? Yeah, you sniffing that? She is 8 weeks old. Very much a thrilling and joyful bundle of energy. But
Love it.
yeah, this is Lilith.
Oh. How old is she?
8 weeks.
Wow. Gonna be a big dog.
She's gonna be a big dog. These paws are ginormous.
Yeah, I was gonna say for 8 weeks, the more I look at it, like, yeesh.
Yeah, not a pit bull breed. A lot of people confuse these with pity breeds.
Well, no, because she has like a longer face.
Yeah, but they get a bad rap.
Well, it's because a lot of people don't know how to train their dogs, though.
Yeah.
Very rarely is it ever a bad dog. It's usually a bad owner.
It's always a bad owner, a bad upbringing.
The only reason I will never say only is because I have met a couple of dogs that like
Just snapped.
just mentally were just not there.
Yeah.
But 99% of the time, you're right. It is a bad owner.
Okay.
On a side note, I just found out the amount here, by the way. Our current U.S. trade deficit is 1.3 trillion.
That's gross.
All I'm saying, reciprocal tariffs and do what we're talking about. It's it.
Buddy,
We're done.
we got to start watching our backs. Okay, we have solved the energy crisis.
Yes.
We have solved the retirement and financial issues, and now we just fixed the tax issue.
Yeah.
We are 3 for 3. We got to start watching our backs.
Either that or Trump put me on retainer.
Right?
Like, I am more than happy to be an advisor. Just tell me. Just call me up. Because you clearly have my number. Well, you're the government. You can get it anyway. What am I kidding? Can't hide shit.
No. And I work for them, sort of.
In association.
Yes, in association
You
with.
touch tips with the government,
I touch all their tips.
Ew.
Lovingly, slowly, and with some saxophone music playing in the background. Every day.
If I could divulge personal comments on the... why don't I just picture you in your office? Just with the saxophone. As you, oh, yeah. Just...
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's not solder.
That is solder. That's not flux.
Oh, man.
What's all this white crusty stuff around the solder? That is flux. It's my own special blend.
Only one man can jam the government from the inside. I'll start calling you Lone Star. That is a Spaceballs reference if you don't get that one.
Oh, yes, it is.
When are they going to make a sequel to that? That was such a good movie.
I don't know. I'm afraid of sequels these days.
They all suck. I do want to do an episode
I mean,
on like the collapse of the movie industry.
Oh, there we go. Let's write that down on the old analog episode tracker.
Particularly science fiction. Because I know you and I are both sci-fi guys. I watch everything except chick flicks. I fucking hate that. Or anything that's on Hallmark.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Rom-com upload. You loved it. It qualifies as a rom-com.
That's not like a chick flick. Like I'm talking like the Hallmark. Like,
oh yeah, no. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'll be real. I am one of those people that I cannot be in the same room as a Hallmark movie because it angers me. Because what's the fucking point of watching a movie when you already know the end every single time?
Yeah, there are people out there that don't.
It's brain rot
That's
for
like
older
an us
people.
thing. That's
all it is.
That's a tism thing.
Dude, all Hallmark is brain rot for older people. Hallmark is to older people as what TikTok is to me. Like I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
And it just it angers me. I could not imagine. I feel like it's all honestly we are probably 3 years away from everything from Hallmark ever makes being totally AI generated.
We're 3 to 5 years away from being 90% of all content being AI generated, if not all life.
But
the singularity is still right around the corner, man.
You know what's an interesting?
We talked about this.
An interesting thought that
episode did not get shit for listens.
I know
that pissed me off.
Let me a small aside, but I'm going to bring this back into the original topic here. So Americans, just Americans, but like humans in general, we all are socialized because of shared experiences. Because we all have something to talk about. There's something shared between us all.
Right.
What happens when everybody gets to watch their own AI personalized movies, infotainment, news, games, where you're always the main character and it always does something different every time for every person? You can't, there's no shared experience.
I can tell you what happens. 2 things. 1, Wall-E. 2, Roy from Rick and Morty.
Yes. You were going to go do an AI thing where you live an entire life and you're going to get a high score or a terrible score. And then you're going to walk away being very confused. And that's it. That's your merry-go-round.
And that will be it.
Honestly, we are quickly becoming a Hotel California country.
Uh-huh.
Check out whenever you want, but you can never leave.
Yes.
Oh, man.
And then you get the upload option, and you actually never do have to leave.
But then you're not you.
Or are you?
You guys have to watch that episode for all that, because we discussed it for like 2 hours.
the Digital Afterlife episode.
That was a good one. I enjoyed that. We had a lot.
That was a great one.
But I guess now, really to kind of sum up today, I mean,
I thought this episode was going to go way longer.
No, I kind of figured this is going to be pretty quick.
Okay.
This is something I really just wanted to discuss, and I want to hear from the audience, and I want to hear from people. Do you think we're onto something here? Because the numbers that I have looked at and looked up, basically from my conclusion here, is if we do a 10% income tax, an import tariff of 30%, and a 5% consumption tax, everything's paid for.
We're there. Yeah, we have to do some cuts.
But wait a minute.
But I mean, the Doge office is already on that.
The Doge, and we're still already behind 1.3 trillion in trade deficit. We fixed that as well. All of a sudden now, we're in the black.
We're in the black.
We're good. And you know what the crazy thing is? None of y'all at home have to spend another dime to do it.
That's the biggest takeaway. Doing what we're saying doesn't affect the wallets negatively of any of the average Americans. It's actually a net positive.
The only thing that would slightly have to change a little bit is I feel like you should not have to pay taxes if you're collecting on Social Security, because why would you pay taxes on income that you already paid into a system for? So I feel like that revenue would go down a little bit. but we could compensate for that. But besides that, like,
Right.
and if we instituted the changes that we're talking about, Social Security would never be an issue. So,
Right.
I'm just saying, maybe this podcast is somehow found by somebody in administration at some point, and they go, holy shit, these two morons have figured out the entirety of how to fix all this.
You know what we need to do?
I don't know.
We need to get some kind of a flyer made up with a QR code that links to our episode and take it to DC and just post it up around.
Don't even tell them.
Maybe not a QR code because people are worried about those now because they're weird. But just some stickers or something.
What if we just make a website that links to like parts of our podcast in like a quick like short form that basically explains everything we're talking about?
Maybe some short form videos. Some reels or something.
I'm sorry I work 60 hours a week. I apologize.
Where are my reels, Gibbs?
I don't know, Mansley. I have to get on that. Like that's not even me joking. Like I've been slacking.
But no,
I think it's also I have to learn how to do it on my phone. I think that's half my problem too. Is like learning how to do the TikTok editing.
We've had some very enlightening episodes, and I would love to get a few of our snippets in front of some eyes of people that have eyes on them, you know.
Well,
it's okay, Oside.
It's all good. Basically, long story short, feel free to rewind, but we fixed the economy. You're welcome.
Yep, we did it.
We did it, Joe.
We have fixed energy. We have fixed finances. We fixed the economy now.
You know what's crazy?
We are as a pair preventing idiocracy.
I have an idea. Do you want to do an episode on what we would do if either one of us was the president? And we could put all these ideas and see what the country would look like with our rules. Just saying.
We could do that.
Just saying.
Hey. That one episode I was talking about.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No. We're I think on the same wavelength. Okay, we got this. We know what we're doing. So cool.
We've got an episode in the mix that we're going to have some fun with that hopefully you guys like. It's going to be a fun episode, not necessarily a super informative episode, but hopefully it'll make you guys think. It's probably 5 or so episodes out because it's going to take some planning to get it right. But that's how much work we're going to put into that one. So really hope you guys like that one.
Oh yeah. I think what we've noticed is we're doing a little bit less of winging it and a little bit more like research, discussion, planning. As it just helps, helps us kind of keep on track.
Yeah. Also going to try to do a group on the Facebooks and see if we can get some outreach there. Need to come up with a name for it. We were joking around with Consumption Junction or something like that. Didn't really tickle the pickle or massage the weenus, I think is what you said. So we're open to taking some names. If you want to hop on the Discord if you're not there already.
Oh yeah, definitely join the Discord.
But yeah, between the Discord and that group on Facebook, I would like those to be two of the primary means of interacting with us.
I do want to try. I'll say this on the podcast as well. Now that I'll have some money this week because I got done spending $2,000 working on my truck. I would like to subscribe to one of those AI programs that edits and takes snippets and does clips and everything, just to see how well it works.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of other podcasts using those, and I just want to be like,
yeah.
We talk about AI so much on this podcast. Like, let's start investing. Let's start seeing how well it works.
Let's do it.
Oh, also, can we ask? I did want to ask too. We had some suggestions from people asking about if we should have like background music and stuff, and some other things.
Yeah, we're probably going to throw some of that into the audio for this on the uploads. So
we'll probably do two different uploads.
If you guys hear,
you want to do one with and one without, or
well, we'll do the video without, And then the audio, if you're listening to this on Spotify or one of the other audio only, you may have been listening to a background music. So if you liked that, let us know. We'll try it on a couple of episodes and see what kind of feedback we get.
Yeah, and definitely let me know, because I don't know if we're using my music or if we're using other music. We got to figure out.
I think we're going to start and just use your stuff.
Okay, cool.
So the music you hear will be composed, produced, directed by, written by Gibbs.
Hi.
So he is a musical beast. He plays most of the instruments with his penis, so just be aware of that.
There would be so much blood if I played guitar with that thing. Like that.
That's where do you think they come up with the definition of shredding?
Oh, it's like a $3,000 cheese grater. It just, oh man. God, if I actually could, honestly, I could make a lot of money at a strip club if I could do that.
Right?
You know, I'd be the only person performing there with the clothes still on. I'm like, no, leave that on, sir. We're just here for the penis that plays guitar. That's fine. Man.
You know, we could show up as a pair. You with the guitar, me with a missile.
Instead of Ride the Lightning, we should have
yes.
song Ride the Missile. Save a horse, ride a missile. I don't know.
Yes.
Just do cover songs. Oh man, that would be. Maybe that should be my album for the podcast. It's just I have an idea. I'm gonna AI bot that later. I'm gonna AI that.
Yes. Save a horse, ride a missile. There you go.
I wonder if I can.
I'll send you a picture.
You know, I'm once I get. So basically, long story short, is once I get an electronic drum kit for up here, because I hate programming drums. It takes forever. Like I can do it, but it sucks.
Oh yeah.
I do want to start doing parody songs, because I've been really wanting to do that for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. Hell, I've made a couple.
I know. Well, that's something I would be asking our group about, because there's a few that I still have to do. Granted, I'm going to be 5 years too late. I still have to do the Super Cruise Blues for Elite Dangerous. I haven't forgotten that. That's like number one on the list.
Nice.
So, we'll do that. Sorry about all the sides today, guys.
Yeah.
We're all over. I'm all over the place.
Our brain cells are out at the bonfire tonight, so it's cool. Noodles and nips.
That's how I feel. That's been my day.
Yes.
That's been a day. I think it's because of the pain meds. That's what I think. That's my problem.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Like I said, if they don't work, just shove them up your butt. Go 3rd Avenue. You'll get all the benefits.
Yeah.
It's like a butt bong for beer.
Have you ever done one of those?
No.
Okay, because I would be concerned if you did.
I have considered butt caffeine though.
Why?
I wanted to try
Fair
it.
enough. I was gonna say, I've known you on a couple of beers and you're a handful, so if you took that straight to the ass, I would be concerned. Like if you started butt chugging, we'd have to lock you in a cage. Like
half a syringe of whiskey straight up 3rd Avenue.
Oh.
I would be a completely different person.
Oh God. The problem is I'd
Tax this dick.
the things I would say I cannot say in this podcast.
Oh no, probably not.
But yeah, I guess.
I mean, it's better than trying to do like zins in your foreskin and up your butt or something like that.
I'm out. No, you're fucking with me. No, they don't do that. No, I refuse to believe it. No.
So join us on the socials and you'll join in the discussions here.
No, I refuse to believe they do that. I'm not accepting your reality. No. There's no way.
Gen Alpha, Gen and Gen Z, buddy. Back in my day, they used to take tampons soaked with vodka and shove them up places. Now they're doing zins under their foreskin.
Ah.
Yeah.
Does it create a rash?
I don't know what it creates because I don't do anything like that.
Like, wouldn't that fucking burn or something? Or like...
Again, I have no idea.
I have so many questions.
Well,
why not just put...
There's a hub. There's a repository hub where you can find out those answers.
There. I don't want to be associated with those people. I don't want to be on that kind of list. I'm on enough lists as it is. Fuck.
Right?
You know, but I don't even know. But yeah, I just want to do a quick shout out to chat if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about this episode, any notes, any discussion about.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of concerns about this episode with me.
That's a relative term with us. I mean, concerns to the topic at hand, not to.
Oh, we're allowing that.
Oh Jesus, I'm not even. Oh crap. Right.
Gibbs Special Treatment Care, the foreskin delivery service. Hells yes.
God no. No.
Hey, then you can get some of that special cream made out of foreskins.
You know, I still can't believe that's a thing.
I know. I can't believe Steve Harvey put it on his hands on national TV.
You know,
that was hilarious.
Every time I think a conspiracy theorist is wrong, like, or a quote unquote conspiracy theorist, it's like, man, you should wait long enough. They're fucking right. Like, I hate to say it.
I'm tired of them putting the chemicals in the water and turning the frickin' frogs gay.
Honestly, that's a pretty good Alex Jones. I'll give you a solid 8 out of 10.
And then, he was proven right.
Yeah.
Atrazine in the water makes the frogs,
It's crazy that he was right about Epstein's Island back in the 90s.
It's crazy he was wrong about anything.
The only thing is the whole Sandy Hook really got him.
Yep. That's where he did.
That's where.
Okay, I have lost a puppy, so we're going to have to wrap this up.
Okie dokie. No problem.
She has wandered out of the room. So join us on the socials. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Discord, look for the group. If you're following us at all, there'll be an invite link. There will probably be a password. It will be blasted on our socials so that you can get it. We'll probably put it in the Discord, so join the Discord so you can get the password.
Absolutely. Join us on Discord, TikTok, Instagram, all the usual socials. Feel free to interact.
Right, because there's so many videos on our TikTok page. Right, Gibbs?
I'm sensing some hostility here. I think, I'll figure it out. It's fine. Fuck you, but it's fine. It's fine. It's okay.
Love you, buddy.
I'm sorry some of us don't get out of work at like 3 in the afternoon. I'm sorry they're not privileged.
2:30.
Go fuck
get it
yourself. Right. Honestly, dude, I'm not home until 6 or 6:30. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm usually tired by 6:30.
Fucking old man.
Because I've been working at home for 3 hours.
Fucking first world problems. Jesus Christ.
I know, right? I'm home by 3:15 most days. But I start work at 6:30, so,
I remember when I used to start work at 5:30 and I didn't get home till 5:30. That fucking sucked.
I remember working 12s, okay? Yeah. So,
well,
man.
12 sucked.
Yes.
Unless you get a 4-day work,
right.
Then that's worth it. But
no, it was usually 6. Yeah, it was gross.
Ugh.
Sound like a really good date. So, on that note, we love you guys. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Absolutely.